Today I have an exclusive with no other than the original Ultima Bradley Ellis, and we're going to be talking Final Fantasy XVI spoilers only. Let's go. I haven't finished Final Fantasy XVI. That's totally okay. I need somebody to really kind of get me back hyped, get me like into it, kind of tell me about it. It's been a few weeks for you now since you finished Final Fantasy. How do you still feel about Final Fantasy XVI?
I feel very good about it still. I think it's a very, very, very good video game. I got some problems, but overall, it's to me one of the best single player Final Fantasy games in a very long time. And so it's like, yeah, and I got to play it early, so I had a taste of it, and it just kind of solidified that for me. But yeah, I mean, with Final Fantasy, I'm always pretty open to them doing whatever they want to do. So I guess it feels like a homecoming like that to me.
If you think about those emotional moments, do you feel like it's been one of the more impactful Final Fantasies?
Sure, yeah. I think it's been very impactful because a lot of the older games, of course, have very impactful moments, but the tech there is much more limited, so you can only convey emotion in so many ways. But nowadays, when stuff looks so crazy and what you can show, some of it can hit really hard because a lot of Clive's just life in general, of course, the beginning of the game, him being betrayed by his mother and essentially sold as a slave to the Empire, him struggling with that, him finding out the scene where he finds out or he like accepts that he killed Joshua, his like younger self talking to him at the same time, and it's the push L3 and R3 to accept the truth moment. Like, I thought that was really good.
There is a deep conversation to be had. I mean, specifically you just mentioned Clive. The game kind of suggested that maybe he knew. Do you feel like kind of he knew that he was responsible for Joshua's original death?
I think he figured it out later on when he actually turned into Ifrit. Then he knew it. I think he completely didn't know about him killing Joshua before until he became Ifrit. Then him dealing with that and Sid kind of giving him hope. They're saying there's another icon of fire running around, so Joshua or Clive thinking that maybe is the killer.
Yeah, if he would have really kind of known deep down, would he really have pursued the potential killer for this long, right? Really as the initial motivation when he joined Sid as well. I don't know if he would have, so maybe that speaks to that. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Did you have other like emotional moments?
There's a point very specifically at the end of the game where there's a shot of Joshua in his cradle and Clive is there as a younger, he's probably like 5 or something like that, and him like holding his little brother's hand with his finger, just kind of reflecting on their lives together, and that was like a very emotional moment for me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And of course, Sid's death. Sad to see that man go.
Let's talk Mr. Sid himself. Did you feel connected to Sid right away? And like kind of how strong was that bond that you felt to Sid?
Oh yeah, Sidolphus definitely. Huge bonds with him and Clive. You know, he was kind of almost like a father figure to him, almost somewhat. They had like this bond of Sid really getting Clive back into shape of everything. You know, Clive was very upset, very sad, dramatic person kind of, and for good reason, but Sid's like, yo, you can do something with this power you have. You can help some people. So I think him kind of being the guide to help Clive move along and have motivation is important. That's why when Sid dies, it's so much more impactful because Clive kind of loses that figure. Obviously, he has Jill now with him, which is great, but he definitely lost a piece.
For me, the bond to Sid, I thought it was cool. He had a cool intro, like kind of how he saved Clive to begin with. But when he then died, I'm like, I don't know, man. It felt so short. It felt so rushed. It's like,
yeah,
come on, Sid. I wanted a few more years with you, kind of, you know? So,
yeah. You do get some closure in a different way with Mid, which is Sid's daughter. So you get kind of some them bonding over Sid that way, which is nice.
Great. Does she have like her own side quest as well?
Yeah, she's got her own story to do.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta jump back into that.
Yeah. The side quests, they start like whatever. They're okay, I think. Like, I don't expect a lot from side quests usually. They're just fine. You get stories. The story stuff's pretty good. But later on, you get a lot of context for the people in the hideaway, so you understand a lot of their motivations, and that, I'd say, is like a do not skip ever. You don't want to miss out on some of that stuff.
Do you have like one example that is really present where you're like, oh, I've done this side quest, I'm so glad, because now I've learned something about the hideaway or, you know, the people of the world?
Yeah, like Blackthorn the blacksmith, you learn a lot about his past and where he's come from and why he acts the way he is. And there's a really nice one with Jill, where you get some more Jill time with Clive talking about their youth. There's one with Torgal, that's I think my favorite.
Yeah.
You go to this little hideaway that Clive had when he was younger, like almost like a treehouse almost.
Oh.
And you find out during those years when Clive was missing that Torgal had been collecting Clive's things and bringing him there. So you get he like has Clive's old wood sword he used in the tutorial, and you get that, and it's a really nice moment. You know, it shows that Torgal's got a lot going on. He's a very emotional creature.
You actually just gave me goosebumps. Quick fire question. Who put the head in the box?
Clive confesses to killing her, but I don't think Clive put her head in the box. I'm gonna say it's probably Barnabas while he serves Ultima. He's sowing chaos for Ultima in certain ways.
English voiceover or Japanese voiceover?
English 100%. The canon version of the game. To me, they are like very Western characters.
I'm gonna push back just a little bit. It makes sense from a mass market appeal to me. Brad, I noticed something. Switch to Japanese, the animations are still very Japanese. I don't want to say too anime, but you can really tell, like.
No, yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, it does. I mean, compared to other past Final Fantasy games, mannerisms are less. And I think just from the way they set out, their main intent was for the English VO to be the main canon thing of it.
Respect it. I think it's good if you stick with the English one, but I always like to also see that. Still some wiggle room. Final Fantasy XV. You recall Adamantius?
Yeah. The super boss, yeah.
Do I get anything off that scale?
As big as that thing?
As big?
No.
Okay. I know they're like Notorious Marks. Tell me about one.
Say you should see all of the high rank hunts at least. You should totally see them. There's some really sick ones. There's one of the last ones is King Behemoth. He is humongous. Got a bunch of stuff you gotta dodge. He's really fun.
I'm familiar with the Behemoth from FF14. You typically have to hide behind some rocks at some point. So that is good.
And there's also a different type of Morgul, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, classic Final Fantasy enemies is also nostalgia bait. It's cool. Did you have any hard time finding them?
Finding them? No, they're not too hard. Some of them they tell you where they are, but a few of them don't tell you the exact location. You kind of have to read the text to figure it out.
You have some RPG elements right there. You have to read the text.
Actually,
figure out,
read the text, go find it. Yeah.
Final Fantasy difficulty. Anything you feel like you want to share from that?
The Final Fantasy difficulty? I mean, it's just much more challenging. Guys hit way harder, they take longer to kill, which I appreciate. That's kind of what I want. It's like Final Fantasy VII's hard mode, you unlock it. There's some restrictions though. In 7, obviously, like you can't use items and stuff like that, but here you can use everything you have. But it's just much more of a challenge, which I appreciate from a character action game like this. But there's also a harder difficulty that you can do in the trial, like the arcade mode stuff. It's called the Ultimania difficulty. So if you want to go even further, you can do that. If you want to do the leaderboards with all that stuff. For Final Fantasy mode, they also increase the level cap. There's also like the ultimate weapon you can only get in that mode.
It kind of reminds me of like in 14, you kind of grind for like the savage weapons, like the best weapons. But then, like, you've done all the content where you could have used that weapon. Like, it kind of seems the same way here as well. Yeah. Is there a reason to actually have it other than...
It just to have a cool looking weapon to help you get through the Final Fantasy mode.
Brad, Clive is dead.
Clive?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the end of the game? Is that what you're asking me about?
That's exactly what I'm asking you. Is Clive dead or not?
It is uncertain. You could say he's dead, but you could also say he's alive. It can go both ways, I feel like.
What's your opinion?
I feel like he's going to be alive. But sometimes Final Fantasy games like to leave you with questions and leave it up to the player to interpret it. And Final Fantasy VII Remake definitely did that, leaving it up to you speculating like crazy what the hell's going on in this game. And of course, Final Fantasy X, a lot of it is like the secret ending with Tidus swimming out of the water kind of thing like that. So they like to leave stuff open a lot.
Well, the post-game scene kind of suggests that whatever happens is way in the future, right?
Maybe. It could be way in the future. If they show that way in the future, it could be, but it doesn't mean they can't go back. We don't know the state of the world necessarily. I'm assuming Clive cast Ultima himself and got rid of magic in the world, but there's lots of room open for them to do stuff if they want.
Are you actually hungry for more right away?
Oh, I would love more DLC whenever they can get it out. Like, I would love Leviathan, because they talk about Leviathan just really briefly in the game. He's like a lost icon. So to see what happened to him in that time or her, maybe something with Jill in the past or Benedicta, maybe be really cool. Or just something after the game. Yeah, maybe with Joshua or whatever.
That's cool. Yeah, you're still hungry. I can tell. Okay, you kind of.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy a lot, so
I feel like there's so many games, and like when I finished Cyberpunk, my ending was just like it felt so perfect. I'm like, I'm good. Like not going back for a little while. And I was just kind of curious, how it was for you. Like if even when you finish Final Fantasy 16, like you want more. So.
yeah, I mean, it could be a while too before we even get anything, so the hunger might set in even more. So, but I mean, if it doesn't happen, it's okay. It didn't happen. I'm glad I had a great experience with what it was, so it's okay.
That's great. That's a good final word. If you're watching this channel, you probably know who Brad Leos is, but still, Brad, just let people know what should they do now, what should they watch next, given that you are one of the main Easy Allies.
Yeah, you could check out all of our stuff on youtube.com/easyallies. If you want to see all of our content, we got spoiler mode there where me and Damiani talk about a lot of the game, a lot of the mechanics of the game, especially to gameplay stuff and story, of course. We got an interview on there with a bunch of the developers of the game that Damiani did, which is really cool. So yeah, check us out on there if you want to see all of our coverage about Final Fantasy and other games too.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
And maybe next time we get Huber or somebody else. Who knows? Goodbye!
Goodbye.